Hey everybody, I have a slideshow here for you in case you missed the day we went over our floor plans and how to transfer them from graph paper to AutoCAD. Or if I just went too fast or you want to watch it again. But these first few crucial steps are going to help you get comfortable with AutoCAD. What are the steps you need to do to get started and to have a successful transition from graph paper to AutoCAD. So let's jump in. We will do a couple slides and then I'll have a tutorial for you can check out. So on the slideshow going forward, we've done our paint plan, which is relative to scale, and then our graph paper plan, which is blocking the scale. So each quarter inch equal 2 feet by 2 feet. And then the AutoCAD plan, which we're on right now, which will be exact. So we'll go down to the thickness of the wall, which is generally 4 inches. And then we'll add fixtures and cabinetry and things like that. And then next up after this, once we're done, is Revit. So our 3D model, super excited about that. I can't wait. And these AutoCAD drawings are awesome too. So again, we'll cover how to go from graph paper to AutoCAD and use this as much as you need when I'm not available. What you need to do right off the bat is set your sheet up. I'll do this in the video as well. So as you go to the A, go to drawing units, and then inside of that, you're going to set it to architectural. So this is going to be feet and inches. And our precision is just feet and inches right there. So we're not going to go into fractions of an inch at all. Then we need to set up our dimensions. So they are also set as like metric or decimal. That's a little bit trickier. You're going to go to the Annotate tab in your menu. And then there's a dimension section. You're going to go to the top drop-down menu and choose dimension styles. Inside of that, you'll get a pop-up that looks like this that just shows you some sample dimensions. You'll choose modify from there. And then change your primary units to architectural, just like we did before, and precision to feet and inches, no fractions. Then jump over to the text section, the text tab, and change your text height to 1. So it's going to quickly allow you to see the full text height when you bounce around your walls. I'll show you what I mean here when we get to the tutorial video. When you are drawing and you have a question on the size of a room or mainly like small spaces like a mudroom or laundry or some closets, and you're like, how do I configure this? How should I design this? I have to make some changes at this step. Houseplan Helper is a great website to just use and search and become familiar with when I'm not available to answer your question directly. And then as we go further, and you have to put in fixtures, so vanities, our sink, tubs, toilets, kitchen counters, fridges, stoves, all of that stuff. They have a size, they have a range definitely, but they're going to be generally similar sizes. And dimensions.com is the best spot to go for up-to-date sizing for all of that stuff. My video link will be here. And then again, to get credit for the introductory lesson, whether you did it in class with me or you're following along here or just doing review, you'll have to set up your sheet correctly. You have to create single lines to size. You have to create wall thickness, add wall bucks, and then cut out doors and windows. So those are the key things that will get you the right steps to set up your file. So let's jump over to AutoCAD. So, and this, we'll pop over to AutoCAD. And we started with this master suite, and then we had the 2 closets that we did in class. And so for this lesson, I'm going to add on over here. But like I said, I'm going to review a little bit of what we've done so far. So I'm going to hit the A, and I'm going to make sure you know how to change your drawing units. And then you just, or drawing utilities, go to units. And then inside of that, just make sure you set it to architectural and precision from 1 foot or from foot and inches. And you can just hit OK. That is crucial to get started. Next, you will want to go to your dimensions, so your Annotate tab, and then your dimensions section. And inside of that, standard drop-down. I don't really like where this is located, but this is how you get to it. Manage dimension styles. There's probably more than one way, and there's probably a command shortcut, but the visuals work good for video. We'll go to Modify, And then primary units, so the middle tab, again, architectural and feet and inches. Then go over to text and change your text height to 1 foot, and that should be good. You can change it if you want later if it's not big enough or it's too big, but that should be good for what we're going to do. And then hit OK and close, and there we go. So even if you don't have this on your screen and you want to get the skills, we're going to jump right in and start going and drawing. I'm going to choose the line tool, and I'm just going to snap from this corner. Now, if you're just choosing any old location, you don't have this previously drawn, you can type in 0, 0, and that'll start you at the origin, and that will be fine. So I have a master suite here. Let's say I want to add on a living room next to it. Living room, large size, maybe 22 feet. I can type in 22, and then literally I need to type in the foot signal because our default is in inches. So anything we type in, just hit enter without any notation is going to go directly to that, and that's going to be inches. So we need to put in foot signal or feet signal symbol to get that exactly. So that went down about that distance. And then what I'm going to do, I'm not going to be hung up on a size so much. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to pull my polar snap out. And that's going to be 16 feet. Probably a little small for what I want. So I'm going to drift down and I'm going to type in 20. So I want it to be a little bit rectangular, more than just straight boxy, 20 feet, and hit enter. And so this is what I mean by being able to set lines to length. Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to run this over to this edge of this wall and hit snap. Again, it's 22 feet. I do not have to type that in. It's going to be good. I can hit right click and I can hit enter, and that's going to get me out of my line tool. Now, I'm going to roll the mouse and zoom out and slide it over a little bit and then roll back in. I don't want to do double lines just yet. It's very easy to get bogged down in the double lines. So I prefer it if you draw all your single walls out, leave a little bit of extra space because you're only going to be eating up space with the walls. So let's say I want to put an informal dining area on to the side of this. I'm going to give myself a little bit more elbow room. I'm going to say 12 foot. So 12, enter, go down. And then just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to pull the polar snaps out and then snap and hit enter. So this space is going to be an informal dining area, and these walls are going to disappear at some point. So let's talk about that. How do I add wall thicknesses? I'm going to go to offset tool. So I'm going to kind of hover over it, offset. And then I can just type in 4 and hit enter. That's going to set my offset to 4 inches. And then any line that I want to offset, I can just click and pull forward. Now it's good to have a bunch of lines done at once so you can see how quick this process goes. So I'm going to hit all of them, and I know some of them are going to be trimmed up here in a minute. So I can hit right click, hit enter, and those walls are good. They have a 4-inch thickness. Exterior walls are usually thicker, maybe because of brick or siding, or they have extra insulation if they're built by 2x6, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Too much to worry about. So you can see all these little cross lines in here. We can quickly trim those out if they bug you. They tend to bug me right away, but it's not a big deal. If you just want to leave them and come back to them later, you can do that. So let's say I want a large archway between this informal dining room and this great room here. I need to chop some of this wall out. And so I'm going to come off of my main wall and I'm going to put in a corner buck, or I'm going to put just a little wall extension where I can build my archway on. I'm going to come off a foot. So I can come off a foot with an offset off this entire line, or I can trim this out and redraw it in. So I'll do that. I'm just going to trim this out. It's kind of convoluted, but I'll show you why in a minute, why it works. Go across, boom, right click, enter. My offset, 12 inches. That's a foot. And I'm just going to pull that up. There we go. And then I'll show you the difference on the other side. There is no difference. So I'm going to have to hit enter. And see, again, that's one of the reasons I don't like trimming right away, because a lot of times you're going to use these. Now my offset's already set to 1 foot. I can just hit enter if I'm using the same thing. So I can go here, 1 foot, great, enter. Now I wanted that wall placement. I needed to know where it was going to be, but I don't need it all right now. So I can trim those two out. And if I want, I can hover in and knock those out right now as well. So you're going to do a lot of that type of setup that I just did. Drawing some walls. Look at that, I went a little bit too far. So I can just run and extend, trim, extend. Sometimes I really like it when I make like an inadvertent mistake, and I can kind of show you that. Sometimes it bogs down the tutorial. So I like to try to keep it crisp as best I can. So I cut out a large opening, and we can put an archway in there. 20 feet minus 2, so around 18 feet. It's pretty big. We might need to add more distance from a construction standpoint, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So let's say I want to add some windows. So I have this large great room theme right here, and I want to add some window cutouts into that. I'll come up with a little bit of a design. So I'm going to trim this here just because I'm working with it and I don't want it to bug me. So let's say I want to be dead center. One of the things that you may have to do is set your midpoint. That's not by default. So we're going to drift down here to the bottom tray. And the second one over is your snaps. So you'll right click on that, go to snap settings. And then in here, you'll go to object snap and make sure your midpoint is turned on. Comes in handy. If it bothers you, if you're working with some tight quarters and your snaps are bothering you, that's how you turn them off as well. So I'm going to establish my midpoint in this line. So notice I have it trimmed. It's not in a full extended line. I got from this wall to this wall. So I know I'm in the midpoint. Great. Now, window sizing and stuff like that, like you can kind of just design what you want, but there's pretty typical sizes, and the bigger you get, it's kind of like an exponential cost. So windows are expensive to replace if they break. So you don't want to like have one ginormous window. You want to have multiple. So I'm going to do a 5-footer in the middle, and then I'll do two 3-footers on the side. And I'm going to set my offset at 30 inches. So 30 plus 30 is 60, that's 5 feet. So I'm going to go 30 in one way, 30 in another way, enter. I'm going to run up and hit trim, and then I can quickly just knock everything out. So there's my window opening. And then I'm going to add a 3-footer over here and a 3-footer over here. Now I need some wall left in the middle. I need some wall. So I'm usually going to need a trimmer and a king, and probably a trimmer and a king. So that's going to be 6 inches minimum. I also have to think about window casing. How big is that going to be? Usually it's 2 inches. So I need like 4 inches from that standpoint, and I would have like a little bit in the middle to paint. So like 6 inches is the minimum. So let's just run with that. So I'm going to type in 6, enter. And I'm going to go here over, here over. And then I'm going to put, what did I say, some 3-footers. So I'm going to go 36 inches. And I'm going to run an offset from that over here. And from that over here. And then I'll trim out the middle, and I'll zoom out. Looks like I got a little overzealous, so I'm going to hit some Control Z. And I'm going to hit retrim on this. There we go. And so now that would be how you can cut some windows. So I'm gonna hit Control Save real quick. Most students, including myself, I don't like that. I want it to be enclosed just for visualization. But I would leave as much of this window work as possible until later. So here's what I mean. So you can just go midpoint to midpoint and establish that you have a window pane in there. And if you're good with that, My midpoint. If you're good with that and you can kind of just let it hang, that's fine. And I'm going to show you what you do have to do eventually at some point. Snap to the middle there. So I have to add a thickness to it. Everything is cut from 4 feet off the ground, and so windows have a thickness to them. Generally, we're just going to go with 1 inch. So I have to run my offset to 1 inch, and then I just click on my line and I run it out on the outside, and that represents my window pane. And we can change those colors later. We can change those colors later. So those are the basic things that I'd like you to be able to do to start. We ran some single lines, made a couple rooms, so I'd like you to do like all of your rooms single lines. We set the thickness of the walls. We did some wall bucks or some openings, some large opening cuts, and that can be for a door, double doors. We did that over here on this side. Basically the same format. You put some offsets off the wall and then you clean it up. And then we did some window cuts. Usually we found our midpoint, or if you have specific spots, you'll have to kind of run an offset to get to that line. And then we kind of divided it and went and created each edge, cut them out. We talked a little bit about how much room you need between windows. So that's 6 inches for the construction studs that go in there. And then we talked about the window panes. So those are the good skills to get you started. And even if you set something like this up and you don't have the original closet and master suite that we did, that's totally fine. You can show me those skills. All right, guys, happy designing. I love this stuff, and I hope you guys eventually do too.